Hey, how you doing? Welcome back to the show. Today I want to check out a preamp distortion pedal from Electric Eye Audio called the Thrasher. And this thing just captures all the nuance and coolest guitar tone from the 80s and that Bay Area tone all the way across to New York. Excellent Anthrax, Metallica, you name it. This thing is just so cool. I'm super excited to share it with you. Let's get into it. So just before we get started exploring tones, I'll just run through the setup from the Thrasher. And I'm using it unaccompanied on the pedal board with no EQs, no other effects, no other gain stages or anything. It's going into the front end of the clean channel of the Boss Katana, where all I've got going on the Boss Katana, you can see my settings there. There's a noise gate in the front end, and I've just got a switchable on-off for delay and reverb. And we'll just quickly show you that raw channel right now. On top of that, I have a reverb that's selectable for some tones, and a delay. And that's everything going on with the effects that we'll use today. Everything else is coming from the pedal. And for capturing the recording today, out of the Boss Katana Mark II, it's going into the 2 notes Torpedo Captor X, where that's simulating my Mesorecto V30 112 in the corner with an SM57 microphone pushed up to it, just off the dust cap about 1 inch to 2 inches. And pretty much the sound is identical, so this is just a lot easier to use and a lot easier to set up for recordings, and the sound is fantastic. And for the guitar I'm using today, it's perfect fit for the 1980s thrash scene, and it's my Jackson Adrian Smith San Dimas with a Damasio D100 in the bridge, original Floyd Rose. It is an SDX, but I've spent money and upgraded it over the years. It's well worth it. It's such a cool guitar. It's so heavy too. It weighs a ton compared to the other Super Strats, and the sound is just killer. So I think it just suits this perfect setup today, and I'm just excited to get on with the tones, so let's do it. Anyway, to the Thrasher now, and basic functionality of the pedal. Everything is extremely straightforward with the bass, middle, treble, the gain, the volume, and it's just got a switch here that goes from the Bay Area to the New York area. And the difference in the two is really just the New York area has just got a whole lot more mids. It's a lot punchier. It's got that crunch sizzle on the top. And switching to the Bay Area tone, it really does just change the pedal dynamic a little bit. It adds a bit more bass, takes a bit more mids out of it. It's a little bit thumpier, but it really does change it enough to give the pedal a totally different sort of feel and characteristic. So just a few things I've noticed and to consider when using the pedal. There's so much headroom on the volume, and it's almost like the pedal can push 18 volts at times. But you just turn up enough volume just to match the volume of your actual clean guitar sound. You don't need to add too much more volume to it, as it'll just start to clip and it won't sound good. And as for the gain, I find right at 12 o'clock, it's just perfect for everything. It's a real sweet spot for the gain on this. I do wind it back for some of the tones and wind it up for some solos, but essentially for most of the tones, it's just staying in the middle. So let's just get into some tones. Talk is cheap. It's on the New York setting right now, the home of Anthrax. All the dials are dialed at 12 o'clock, except for the volume there at 9. And this is the tone that you get. The crunch from that is just so Anthrax. I just find it's just so fun to play. It's just got that brutal sort of From there, if we just bring back the treble a little bit, add a bit more bass, you just get that state of euphoria that I had in the intro. And that's such a cool tone. As soon as I just heard that, I was blown away. And that's one of the favourite tones that this pedal has. I just think that whole State of Euphoria album just had the coolest sort of heavy hitting, heavy in the mids, but it's just so punchy at the same time. And then if you want that spreading the disease sort of tone, you just feed in a fair bit more treble there, and it just does that perfect Medusa sort of riff. And that just captures Anthrax perfectly, but other things that it does, living in the Bay Area setting, I think it does a really good Exodus sort of tone, like a Fabulous Disaster. If we just wind back the mids, maybe about there. I love that. I think from there, if we just give a little bit more mids and feed in a little tiny bit more bass. I know this is the New York setting, but I think it just does this tone perfectly. You can see why I'm so excited with this. It just is so fun. It's so cool. And it's going through the front end of a solid state amp that's in a clean channel. It's doing nothing else. I think you get the idea with the New York channel. It's just super cool, really crunchy, but down to the Bay Area tone now. Just all the dials at center. This is pretty much the tone you get. So you can hear the Bay Area tone there. It's just a little bit more, less abrasive, I suppose, a little bit less mids. It's just a bit smoother on the ear, but that's the basic tone. So let's just try winding back some gain and just trying to get that really authentic early thrash sort of tone. And that tone needs no introduction. That Megadeth, So Far, So Good, So What. I thought that's so cool. So cheesy. Anyway, let's go. I didn't mean that. Kill 'em all. Let's just try that one out. It's sort of similar tone. A little bit more gain, a little bit more bass. Let's just get some OverKill, Years of Decay. I think it's something like that. Gain back up. Elimination. And that's just a really cool tone. It's scooped out, but it has that whole 80s vibe. I'm sure if you just run a whole lot of reverb with that, you get some classic like Testament and those sorts of things. But moving on, just exploring a bit more, it's not just got these classic thrash tones. I think it's just got some really classic 80s Marshall bass sort of tones as well. It does a great Iron Maiden. Let's just wind back a bit of the treble, wind back bass, center the mids, and bring the gain back slightly. Yeah, you get the idea there. It just really captures that really nice sort of 800 tone back in the day. And something else that I just thought sounded so authentic and so cool was it captures that Al Pitrelli sort of tone that he did for Poison off Thrash. And it's just a basic tone, but it just did it perfect. And seeing that it does tones like that, it was just really fun and nostalgic. And if you wind up the gain from there, it just does that perfect solo in the middle as well. Anyway, there you have it, guys. That is the Thrasher pedal by Electric Eye Audio. There will be links in the description just to check it out. It's just so cool. It's so much fun to play around with. It was just going through the clean channel front end of the Boss Katana, and that's the tone you get. Blown away, head blown. Anyway, that's it. Take care, guys. Bye.